Hey, what's up, guys? Today I want to talk about the 12th house in a natal chart in astrology. I've read quite a few descriptions about the 12th house by people who didn't have any 12th house placements that were just horribly inaccurate. Or at the very least, they only described the negative behavioral appearance of what the 12th house produces rather than what it actually means and the depth of it. So it's a very hard part of astrology to describe, especially if you don't have any placements there. And I'm speaking as a 12th house dominant natal chart person. But this is in part due to, this difficulty is in part due to the nature of the 12th house itself, what it represents. And that is a realm which is beyond the physical, the tangible, the rational even. The nature of things that exist there can't really be put into words. It's beyond language. Yet here I am trying to describe it. So it gives you access to, I think, a higher and broader and deeper realm of reality. Whereas the 8th house is more about the physical and tangible death and mortality and emotional fears surrounding that. And really emotional issues in general surrounding death, or things that can be reduced to your fear of death. The 12th house is different, and on the surface it seems like the same, but it's less about the tangible and the physical and more about the spiritual and the mystical and the realm of meaning, and that which only tapped into intuition can understand. Remember, intuition and emotion are two different things. Emotion is merely a biological reaction to some external stimuli in the moment. Intuition is our God-given gift of inquiring about the truth. It's our truth sensory perception, so to speak. So that's it. I mean, it's less tangible. It's less physical. The 12th house and the contents of it. It's about intuition. It's about spirituality. It's about the mystical realm. It's about very general connections between things, and it's about the collective unconscious. So it's something that connects us to everything else. One way I like to describe the 12th house as a context is it's everything all at once. So that's why it can be very overbearing for someone who has maybe a strong placement there, or multiple placements there, and which are adversely aspected or unaspected. It can be a source of great depression. But if you have balance elsewhere in your chart, like a lot of opposition in the 6th house, like I do, fortunately, or if you've just pragmatically found balance in one way or another in your life, then that will be a major help in you, in a more stress-free way, accessing the sorts of truths and meanings that the 12th house can provide you. Because it is a dark place, and I understand why a lot of people get trapped there, and it causes problems. But remember, the houses are really about values as well. Someone who has an empty 12th house probably won't be a very spiritual person. At least they won't be deeply, meaningfully spiritual. Maybe they have something else going on in their chart elsewhere that leads them to spirituality on a more surface level, really for more pragmatic use, rather than as spirituality as a source of inquiry into truth, if that makes sense. But yeah, the houses are about values. So what the 12th house provides you value-wise is a deep interest in what is beyond the physical realm, which it turns out is really most things. So what else can I say about this? It can produce fear, but not fear of physical mortality, but rather fear of spiritual death and maybe having to start over. Fear of being alone, and truly comfortable being alone. Although once you find balance for your 12th house placements, you find a new level of comfort and power within yourself. Whereas the 11th house really represents your ultimate social personality, your ultimate social role, that transitions into the 12th house. So who are you even more deeply than that? Regardless of the context, who are you by yourself after you've already moved through the 11th house? Who are you without regard for the existence of other beings? It represents power within, So yeah, again, a lot of descriptions I've read, especially by people who don't have 12th house placements, really focus on the negative behavioral effects of one having something going on in the 12th house, without regard for what is happening internally, which is really the most important bit of it. We process things. We process things internally. When we're alone, we're forced to be with our own thoughts and feelings and intuitive selves, and that scares the shit out of some people, to put it bluntly. So the 12th house is a dark place because it's the dark place of your own dark self. But again, to really come to terms with that grants you another level of power and control over yourself, and understanding also of the general reality in which you're situated. If you have a lot going on in the 12th house, you may, that's your lens. So the aspects of your personality that those planets, which are there, represent, those are your lenses for seeing what is beyond the physical reality. And so, if you speak from those 12th house placements, you may often find yourself in a situation in which people ask you, well, how do you know that? And you may give the answer, well, I just do. Because it is about knowing. It is about understanding. It's about intuiting. It's about connecting. And understanding through deep connections and broad connections. Connections that are not apparent to the eye. Although maybe someone with a lot of stuff going on in the 12th house, to them it is apparent, which is why the 12th house can be frustrating to deal with. If it's not tangible and not physical and not quantifiable, it can be difficult to convince people of how much that which your 12th house has access to really matters. And the fact is that it matters more than anything. But to express that to someone who is very different, it can be very frustrating, you know? So you have to be extra comfortable with yourself. And I think this leads us to another idea, that the 12th house is also about disconnecting from people. Yes, it's about greater connections of our general mystical spiritual reality, but it's about being stoic and indifferent and truly deeply disconnecting from other people, what other people think, from what other people think. And, you know, the question there is, can you really, really think for yourself? Can you really be alone? You know, who are you when you're disconnected? Does that produce apathy? Nihilism? Or does it produce what it should? Peace, gratitude, and healthy stoic indifference. And it's the latter that results from really coming to terms with and integrating your 12th house placements. So that's really just a surface level snippet. Again, 12th house is beyond that which can be described rationally, quantifiably, and so on and so forth. So, doing my best here, but even being someone who has a 12th house dominant chart, it's difficult. It's something you have to experience, intuit, and become one with, you know. Anyway, that's a little video about the 12th house and some of the common misconceptions. See you in the next one. Cheerio.